Whoa, oh, oh. La, da, 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 oh, oh, oh. La, da, 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 oh, oh, oh. La, da, da, da. Making our Christmas memories. I've been working so much lately, I can barely find the time to sleep. Yeah, I spend my time running around, keeping people pleased. But this is my favorite holiday. It's a chance to start over new. 'Cause I missed you, so I'm letting go of everything but you. These are the good times with you. Baby, this year it's just gonna be you and me. Hang by the fire and chill. Isn't this how it's supposed to be? Making our Christmas memories. Oh, and I've been longing to hold you close. Forget about everyone else. Isn't this how it's supposed to be? Making our Christmas memories. Oh, oh, la da da da. Christmas memories. I've been wrapping presents for you. I've been hanging marbles in the tree. And I've lit my house with Christmas lights. So you should come back home to me. And when we wake up in the morning, I'm gonna play those carols that you love. We'll be singing all the melodies until
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Live from the Rob Christensen Radio Network Satellite Studio, it's Jim and Rob Overanalyze the Movies. Well, hello, everybody. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to all of you folks out there in the internet. My name is Rob Christensen. I am co-host of the live video podcast, Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies. The podcast for folks who love to talk about movies as much as they love watching them, and perhaps even more. Today, I know last week we said we would be looking at the World War I inspired by a true story flick, Joyeux Noel, but for a couple of technical issues, as in it disappeared off the service we were going to be watching it on, today we're going to be looking at The Man Who Invented Christmas, a biopic in the broadest sense of the term about Charles Dickens, his writing of A Christmas Carol, and allegedly the invention of Christmas, which is really, I suppose, the big question we're going to try and answer here. And with that out of the way, let's get into, let's take a look at the trailer, all right? Bear with me, everybody.
Hello, I'm Christopher Plummer, and I'm so excited to be sharing this new trailer for my upcoming movie, The Man Who Invented Christmas, which is coming to theaters everywhere this Thanksgiving. I hope so much that you'll like it, and if you don't, humbug to you.
God bless us, everyone.
Follow.
Humbug.
So he's had a couple of flops? Well, who hasn't?
You have a new book in mind?
Oh, of course he does.
My lamp's gone out. I've run out of ideas.
Are we in trouble?
No, of course not.
I have told you not to disturb me when I am working.
On Christmas Eve, the spirits pour into the night.
Look here, Mr. Dickens. Pickpockets, streetwalkers, humbug. Those people don't belong in books.
Charles!
I'm back! I'm back! I'm back!
It's about a miser, and on Christmas Eve, he meets some kind of supernatural guides.
Does it have a title?
Humbug, A Miser's Lament. Christmas ghost story, Christmas song. Christmas ballad, something like that.
Get the name right, and the character will appear. Scratch. Scrounger. Come on, Scrooge.
Shut the window. Think I'm made of money?
Mr. Scrooge. How delightful to meet you, sir.
Sorry, I can't say the same.
You and I are going to do wonderful things together.
How do you make a world come alive? I could almost see and hear them people.
Even if you'd already written it, we couldn't possibly get it printed and distributed in only 6 weeks.
If I can't finish it, I'll never write again.
The characters won't do what I want.
I'm the author here.
Allegedly.
A jolly ghost. What's that mean?
In the season of hope, we will shut out nothing, and everyone will be welcome. I have to get to the printers by 9 o'clock.
But you still don't have an ending.
Merry, Merry Christmas to one and all. That's enough. Back to work.
God bless us, everyone.
Wow, with a trailer score like that, I'm wondering where the spaceships are. Anyway, let's get into the ideological ingredients list. Does it pass the Bechdel test? No, it does not. Does it, would it get a reframe stamp? Maybe. And is it class conscious? I'm going to actually argue it isn't. And its analysis is at best pretty bourgeois, very, yeah, you know what? There is no class analysis. You can't have a class analysis without class consciousness. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Anyway, but of course, this will come up for discussion, I am sure. And with that in mind, I think that's the perfect time to welcome my co-host with the most, Mr. Fezziwig, Mr. Jim Chaboyko. Let's give them all a big round of applause.
Tonight, Rob, you will be visited by 3 technical advisors. and you'll obsess about... No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. How's it going?
Run with it.
Yeah.
Good. I don't know about you, Jim. This wasn't the only movie I watched this week. I managed to catch Tenet.
No?
And I got almost 3/4 of the way through Ava, a new flick from Jessica Chastain.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've actually figured out, maybe this is something we can discuss later or, near the end, but I think I've kind of figured out what bugs me about Jessica Chastain films. So there you go. How about you? How are you doing?
She bugs me too. She's still not dating me or returning my calls.
Well, there you go.
Good.
What does your wife think of that when you call her?
Exactly. Don't mention her. It's currently snowing, so it's like a Christmas miracle outside of our very different studios here. So,
then you know what, Jim? That means we need Christmas music.
There we go.
There we are.
There we go. No.
Anyway.
Keeping good. I put some Christmas lights on behind me, but it appears as
good
if
for you.
They look like watercolor in this camera. So not the sharp colors that I was hoping for, but
oh well.
You know
what? You're doing your best.
It's snowing.
Doing your best to make it happen.
It's snowing.
Exactly. It's snowing in Winterpeg.
It is.
You know what, Jim, before we get into it, I think that's also another segue because I saw you active in the YouTube chat. We've got a few folks watching, including our man in Kuwait City, Jelly Duck. Best of the season to you, Jelly Duck. Yes. So, Ahmed, Is it snowing in Kuwait City?
You never know.
Well, let's find out. Just woke up. It's bright and early. He's not sure. And he's kind of curious about Fezziwig, and maybe you can there'll be an appropriate time to bring up the Fezziwig reference. And we'll get you to answer that, Jim. Okay. Oh, look at this. You know what? Depends on what part of the United States you're in, Ahmed. North Dakota, I'm sure, is under the same amount of snow we are. New York had a big dump, I think, recently, New York City. So, yeah. North America is, nowhere near as large as we as North Americans think of it as, especially if you get the Mercator projection. But it is a continent. And to my everlasting shame, I keep not including Mexico, although it's literally part of the North American Free Trade Agreement.
Yes.
Anyway, my shame. All right, Jim. Well, let's let everyone know they are in the spoiler zone. If I can find the reference.
Uh-oh.
Oh well, you know what? Oh, there we are. You are in the spoiler zone, folks.
American Sign Language for hashtag, I think, is.
Oh, really? Well, there we go.
I'm not sure.
Well, there we are.
But here's the spoiler.
What did
Dickens finishes the book.
And invents and saves Christmas all at the same time. What did you think? Give us
Yeah, it was pretty. It was actually quite good. It's a co-production, and sometimes those things can look a little. They have a certain look, a certain feel. There's an Irish, I think, Canadian series called Dead Still, and that has a lot of the same sort of the feel, you know.
Yeah. And this was an Irish-Canadian co-production, wasn't it?
Yeah. And they even mention Roughing It in the Bush by Susanna Moody, and the
Buckskins.
They name dropped Canada once, so that was cool.
Well, and Christopher Plummer. It's like a big Canada name drop.
Right. Yeah, of course. And still,
and
working
how
at it.
fundamental an exploited Irish maid is to getting the happy stabbing.
Yes, exactly. Well, and then they sort of, she disappears. How do they find her? She just shows right back up, I think. But anyway,
you know why? Because she had to return the book.
Yes. Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, she came back on her own volition.
Yeah,
this was,
instead of doing what any right-minded, exploited, economic refugee should have done, which is went and sold that damn thing.
Well, and it's funny that she didn't sell the book, which looked to be a fairly expensive version. Meanwhile, his dad is sort of going through his garbage looking for autographs and things like that. So that's sort of a little parallel drawn there, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was quite good. I told my son what we were watching, and he sort of said, "Oh, my condolences." So I sort of think that the title isn't very good. He said, "Oh, it sounded like a rock movie or something like that." The Man Who Invented Christmas.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
It
is based on based on a book, which apparently is a lot about how Christmas, as a pop culture thing, was created by this book and the spirit of the time and everything.
Yeah.
And by the way, folks, if you're interested in the book, because you're not going to learn anything about how Christmas was invented in this, like, at all. There's an affiliate link in the description. Shameless plug over.
He was the second house to get Christmas trees, so in England, I guess that was the one.
Them and Queen Victoria.
And we're also led to believe that it was a finer
because of her German cousins.
Oh yeah,
and husband, right?
Tannenbaum.
Yeah.
But we're sort of led to believe that it's a minor holiday, leading up into the 1840s, I believe it was. It was, so I even though that it's named after the book, didn't love the title, but the rest of it sort of fell into place.
Title.
At times it sort of didn't look exactly like a movie theater movie, maybe more of a television or a cable movie. But Dan Stevens, I think, was up to the task, and it's nice to see Christopher Plummer still working away. And I thought there was a lot
part of that Canadian content.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, well, it's just, I wonder if you
goodness,
multiply
Christopher
it.
Plummer's still working.
You can employ 9 10-year-old Canadian actors or one 90-year-old actor. Maybe that's worked into the contract. I don't know, but and he's good too. He's kind of a little bit horrifying, especially near the end.
He does deliver.
The way they light him is very. He looks almost like a monster, even though he's not a traditional antagonist. He's sort of more of a bear poker almost, but. I thought there was a lot going for it, and I got a little verklempt at the end too, and not full on, but it was just sort of touching, and
really?
I thought it sort of came together at the end, and it sort of took a while to get there, but I guess the thing that I appreciated the most was that it wasn't so in your face with our notions of modern traditional Christmas, and magic and elves and the whole, that sort of that twee-ishness, that preciousness that I think we get with a lot of Christmas stuff, where they sort of conflate, the religious aspects with magic and things like that. But so I thought it was sort of I wouldn't say subtle, but it's not in your face about the whole Christmas thing. So that's kind of refreshing anyway.
I would agree with you on that item. Agree with you on Christopher Plummer. It's like, boy, this would be a really great movie if it was A Christmas Carol with Christopher Plummer as Scrooge. It's like, oh, this could be great. Yeah. I was less impressed, Jim. I found the how do I put this? I found it's billed as a comedy. I didn't really laugh that much. It's a Christmas movie about Charles Dickens presented in the most glossy kind of way. Like it kind of it guts the context. It makes it super personal, that he's really just kind of a man getting over his past when his own father did, like, the family was in a debtor's prison for a while. He was put in a blacking factory until his dad could get himself out, bring the boy back, put him into some more mediocre education. So he did grow up with a lot of drama, like highs and lows. You got to think, like, he was a social reformer. Like, even the button they ended on with the charitable giving went up. Instead of, it's like, no, laws changed. Child labor was outlawed. Public education was enforced. Labor rights started to come to the fore. Like, there was just, and Dickens was at the forefront of a lot of that reform. A lot of his books were polemics, speaking to the issues of the day. And that's why, and to strip it all, to just say, well, we got some Grinches, you're just not generous enough, when it was like, oh yeah, if we all depended on charity, well, there are countries that do that. And that's when you... That's when you know what? And for every successful GoFundMe, there's a million that don't make it. and people who don't get what they need. Whereas the Victorian era and the Reformist era, and I'm not saying it was perfect by any stretch of the imagination, you know, but there was a lot of political action around systemic change, not just, you know, we just need another charity drive. Like, and I think that's, I think that was kind of weak of a movie that's purporting to say this guy, like, to talk about not just what he did, but in its context, that he invented Christmas. And he doesn't even add, they barely address the question. And it's funny, though, it's actually, the whole history of Christmas is quite fascinating. I'm going to look it up right now, Jim, unless, maybe the Balmoral, I don't see them active yet, the Balmoral Street Research Irregulars, but there was actually the Christmas, this was the Puritans pre the Mayflower, if memory serves, or right around the Mayflower. But the Puritans, the English Puritans, there were riots in London, the apprentice riots, because they said, nope, the Puritans were all, this isn't a holiday. This has got nothing to, there's nothing in the Bible. It's not it's not a holiday. It's nothing is referred to in the Bible. This is not part of the Christian tradition. And whereas the apprentices rioted because the Puritans, tight-fisted, no fun jerks they were, it was like, you should be at work. And this is the only day they ever got off. And so they rioted over it. And so, yeah, there's the history of Christmas goes a lot further back, and it's a lot of drama and class conflict and all this stuff. And it's like, to just kind of say, well, no one really cares about it. Well, Puritans didn't, because they're like, well, point to it in the Bible. Great, get back to work. I think there could have been more done with that. And also, yeah, it's like, just to boil it down to our author needs to find the meaning of Christmas and then educate us all. I found it just lacking there. I can see why it got the positive reviews. 79% on Rotten Tomatoes, including one dude. Here, I'm going to read this because it's kind of hilarious. Okay. Peter de Bruges of Variety wrote, in addition to being a rather fine addition to the Christmas movie canon, Jim, I ask everyone in the chat, is this the movie that comes up regularly on replay at Christmas? It's been around a few years now. Yeah. Where is this? The film makes a useful teaching tool, a better option for classroom screenings than any of the previous Carol adaptations. Once students finish reading the novella, it's like, and I'm like, what? What?
Yeah, it's a little much.
Well, and again, also one of the great moments when the Ghost of Christmas Present comes, and then he opens up his robe, and he's like, want and ignorance, because these children are hungry and denied education. Like, there's very clear political messages. And so all I can think is, well, that's very, very bourgeois of Mr. de Bruges at Variety. It's like, this doesn't have any politics in it. We could get rid of that. Just kind of gut it all, Yeah. Pretty soon, we won't even need to read the novella. We could just, it's like a Fahrenheit 451 moment. We'll all just watch the Baudelarized version, that focuses on these things. So these are some of my criticisms. But yeah, you're right. The lead holds his own. I didn't think anyone acted poorly. It's kind of neat to see that visualization of the creative process. Fezziwig,
I say, let's have a party.
Let's all dance in the filthy streets of like this. So it was written in 1842, 43, 44.
in 1840s.
Thank you. You know, when I think, when I think the cholera, they'd still have cholera runs because
Oh yeah.
you know, they hadn't quite. Oh, we really should deal with the big stink that is our terrible sewage system.
One of the
We're still drinking out of the same water we literally in.
I think part of it was actually filmed in Dublin. Actually, the place they were using for the railroad station where he caught up to his father at the end. That's actually at the end of a street called Henrietta Street. I've been watching a lot of Irish stuff and documentaries and things lately, and it's now a university. It's the end of this Henrietta Street that used to be a rich area, almost like Point Douglas, you know, in Winnipeg. Nice neighborhood, beautiful old turn of the century homes, and then the wealth left, and the slums took over. So that beautiful sort of university building is right at the end of this Henrietta Street that was notorious for its tenement housing. So it's you know, it's right in the spot. I mean, different city, but still the same kind of slummy,
same misery.
Yeah,
same human misery, same industrial revolution human misery in a large center. It might have even been worse in Ireland. Like, the potato famine was earlier.
Yeah, right around the 1840s.
Oh, right around the 1840s.
So they cleared out, and that's why they cleared out, and the poor moved into these beautiful homes.
They were getting kicked off the land.
You
know, and who didn't die ended up in the cities, exploited, or in England or in North America. You know, the United States especially. Let's say hello to Richard and Katie. They're just joining now. They just finished watching the flick. So, Richard, Katie. We've already kind of given our initial takes. Jim, how would you you'd characterize yourself as generally positive? Like, I mean,
I liked it.
Not the most amazing film, but you know, you thought it.
It was streamlined
for you.
Yeah, I mean, as you discussed it, they had sort of streamlined it quite a bit, which I think is probably typical. Streamlined is a gentle term for sandblasting the politics. But
in a novella, like, it's not like it was like some big doorstop. It wasn't Great Expectations.
Well, here it's actually holding my screen level, and it has been all year, ironically, because this desk is crooked anyway. This house doesn't have a single right angle, so you know, everything's just leany and tilty. But anyway, but no, I there were positive aspects. You know, I thought it was good. I quite enjoyed it. A couple things. You don't often see books about. Well, I guess there's some out there, but there's not a lot of movies about writing, or just sort of celebrating the book, which is nice. I mean, they are probably less so these days. I liked, you know, Dan Stevens, Christopher Plummer, as we discussed. Dan Stevens is doing a lot of comedy lately. He was the Russian antagonist in that Will Ferrell Icelandic Eurovision movie, that silly one on Netflix, and so he was the Russian rival of theirs. So I think he's trying to, you know, stretch out a little bit that way. But yeah, no, and it wasn't, to the other point for Katie and Richard, is that it wasn't so in your face, and it wasn't so twee and precious about the season.
Yeah. You know what? I think that. For myself, I'm less positive. Especially given that, you know, and you're right. Like, I mean, you got to make choices trying to do this. But I think, if you're going to say he invented Christmas, show us how. Show us that. Don't just say it and then ignore it for the rest of the film and only kind of hint at it at the end. I think the gutting of the of the political context in which this book and all his books came out. I mean, well, of course, it's an English writer. Of course, they're conscious of class. But they barely, like an almost insulting little teasers of class. One of the ones was the Foster, his friend Foster, Robert Foster, I want to say. His actual, his close friend. His lady love, Charlotte, who we barely see, not being able to marry him because her father didn't want to marry let his daughter marry the son of a butcher. Okay, well, I guess that's our look. There's classism in Victorian England. It's like, come on. So that I think that was one of my big beefs. Plus, also, it's like, you know what? Here, Jim and I both 100% agree. Terrible title. And yes, you're absolutely right, Richard. It's almost like they picked the title after the movie wrapped up, even though, and that's the way it feels, even though it's based on the book.
Yeah.
Based. Well, they paid for the rights. Somebody was interested.
Entitled "Guy Writing a Book." I think it was. I mean, yeah, it's hard, and I suspect with the political stuff, tone is, and you can even tell by the trailer, and even the font they use in the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
They're sort of going for that sort of English, wonder and magic kind of thing. Well, less magic, but that sort of, that. There's a certain kind of treatment that they.
It's meant for. They're aiming this at families, North American families, middle class, or people who think they're middle class families.
Oh,
happy holidays, Shashank!
Yay!
Good to see you, Shashank. I hope school's going well. Are you on your holiday break, or let us know?
I wonder if it's snowing there as well.
Love the way you keep asking that question. Ever hopeful, Jim. It is the spirit of the season.
Christmas miracle.
For Tiny Tim and all of us. I did, okay, I've crapped on it quite a bit, but I did kind of enjoy that idea that the character growth, and that idea that not so much that Tiny Tim has to be saved, but that Scrooge has to have a path to redemption, whether he takes it or not. I kind of enjoyed that. That's where my head is at when I'm watching these movies. It's where my head... Going back to what I was saying earlier about Jessica Chastain and her films, as much as she presents herself as a flawed person, her characters do not go through any kind of internal change. Her flaws are not flaws that keep her from resolving the plot. There you go. Back to the movie we are talking about.
And another thing about Jessica Chastain.
I thought that was good. I thought it was. And yeah, it's only at the end where it's like, okay, of course there's this this lass. Although would that be really is it more of a Scottish thing or can you Irish lass? Is that an Irish thing? Anyway, it's all right, we got to get a little Canadian content. We got to have some Irish content about a bunch of English people. Christopher Plummer, check. Reference to an adventure in Canada and buckskins. It's like, check. And yes,
in Ireland.
She's redheaded, and then we'll throw in a redheaded maid who, brings the emotion out. Check.
Oh.
And we'll make, holy crap. Okay. Okay, first of all, Shashank. My end semester exams are fantastic, Shashank. We're looking forward to. We're glad you've got some time off, and hopefully you can. You know what? Maybe we can do another collab before you get back to school. Now, Richard actually has a deeper comment. This is one of two. Richard, movies set in historical times nearly always try to cast our own middle-class modern attitudes back in time rather than actually try to portray attitudes of the time. Excellent point. Especially when we get into Charles Dickens' actual family life. Makes it all more palatable and understandable for your average suburban North American audience. I kind of telegraphed my feelings on.
Yeah.
What do you think of Richard's take on that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the only problem is sort of not myself knowing exactly, you know, what it was like back then. So, I mean, of course, I think there's a sort of a temporal bias, you know, a contemporaneous bias involved there. To what extent, though, I don't know. You know, all these movies that we watch, it makes me sort of. I ended up watching something else that we'll talk about in a little bit, or I want to mention in a little bit another portrayal of Dickens in perhaps a surprising place. But there's so much that you could research. And
here, brief interruption, everybody. Let's get some guesses going on in the chat on the film. I have one in my mind, and I will write it down on a Post-it. But let's everyone kind of at least note it somewhere what movie you think Jim will bring up. Okay, back to that, Jim. Sorry.
Well, not to cheat, but it's a television show, so just it's an episode of a long-running television show. But
okay,
yeah,
all right. Then my guess is just bye-bye.
And it's excellent. And I actually watched it today in preparation.
I do have another guess, though.
In preparation for this.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, you always want to research more. I mean, the whole point, what this live stream is attempting to do is just to recreate that, having just seen a movie and talking about it without necessarily doing tons and tons of research. I mean, we always do. We always end up doing a little bit. You don't want to go into this blind. This Christopher Plummer seems like a good new actor, you know, that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know tons on a sort of that level of what it was like. I mean, I have read a few things and watched a few documentaries on it. But, yeah.
Do you think it could be reasonable to say, though, Jim? Let's say the chances of us completely understanding the mores of the time, like, you know, is a little hard to believe.
Yeah,
it is. I mean, there's, you know, like World War. Just go back to World War II, and we would be shocked at some of the attitudes, I think. So I think it is a reasonable thing for Jim to say. And it's almost like the more you recognize the moral cues, the more it's like, okay, this is about us. But maybe a better way to look at these things sometimes is kind of like science fiction. You know, any historical movie can be doing a number of things, just like science fiction does. Science fiction is almost always talking about now. It's not actually, you know, or it's talking about the human condition and creating a context to say, hey, I think this is how we behave if this were to change. But it's still about us. And so a movie like this is about us in our time. even when they go for realism, most of the time in a movie, the realism is in the costumes, the battle tactics, the weaponry, but in the end, it's still trying to speak to a modern audience. So how realistic can it be? I do, though, still think, though, that this film, while I'm not advocating that it should have been more realistic, I'm more like advocating that it could have shown more about what was going on at the time, instead of stripping it all out. Like to talk about that and not talk about the politics of the time, in a way we can understand, but still to not talk about that. Like this is when the poor laws, the corn law, like there was just so much going on then, and it's like, no, we just need more charity. If it just had people more generous, which is really a comment on our own time, that very much a theme. We just need more volunteerism. We need more giving. Like it's kind of a, if we just cared for each other a little more, it'll all work out. It's like that, and let's say put in our own time, Canada Recovery Benefit, moratorium against evictions, a lot of what's propping us up are larger policy choices. Sure, yes, we should all be more generous, absolutely, but we want fundamental change, which is what he was speaking to. Like, this is not hard to,
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I'm just repeating my rant.
No,
I'm repeating my rant. Because I'm that guy.
That's what Christmas get-togethers are for.
Oh, wait a sec. Okay, Vlad. Hey, Vlad 65.
Yes.
The 1967 film Charge of the Light Brigade tried to be realistic about the times, and it bombed.
Yes.
Well, and that's, I do, you still have to package it, so I'll enjoy it. But it didn't bomb because, Vlad, do you think it bombed because it was being too realistic, or did it bomb because it just wasn't a good movie? Because sometimes, it's so realistic, and when I start hearing that, I start thinking, here's some filmmakers defending themselves for making a bad movie. Look at how realistic it is. It's like, I still wanted to be entertained.
You got back to you.
There we go. Thank you very much, Vlad. Vlad commented back, it was very lecturish.
And none of the Beatles were in it, so that's the other thing.
Okay. Well, that's unfortunate.
I should explain to Vlad, I didn't get a chance, but to Vlad, when we tried to access Joyeux Noel, the folks at not Canopy, Hoopla, had kindly removed it from their list, so we could not access it. So we did.
And thank you, Katie.
Yes.
Richard and Katie, who were trying to watch it the other night and reached out to me. It's like, wait, what? What do you mean it's not there? Jim and I know it's late.
Yeah.
But we need to make a call.
Well, at least Katie didn't recommend a movie where there was any children in danger. Wait a sec. What's that? Workhouses? With young people working 12-hour shifts?
Hey, at least it's not a film version of The Little Match Girl.
Well, I never. Just kidding. It's not nearly as bad as a soldier, insane English soldier, pointing a gun at an Australian baby, but,
Yeah. I you know what, though, Jim, let me ask you this. Do you think... I mean, it's different. Now that we're doing this, I think even mediocre films we remember, because we talk about it. There's almost always a bit of conflict. It gets burned in your brain. Mm-hmm. But, anyone who saw it at the time, do you remember somebody saying to you, oh yeah, you got to check it out?
This particular movie?
Yeah.
No, it sort of went under my radar quite a bit. Yeah. And I when until you had mentioned that it was a few years old, I just looked up and it looks like it was released in 2017. So,
yeah. Well, and that's what I think. There's some of it, in a way, it is almost too mushy. Like, pick a lane, and not the middly, mushy. Oh, I'll just be here on these, or like maybe it did pick a lane. Strictly residential streets. No. Trying to get anywhere quickly. Like, it's a comedy without laughs. It is a comedy. I'm not questioning its comedy bona fides. It's got a light tone, but it's not. It's the comedy without laughter. What the hell? Make it. All the criticisms I'm making of this, we could make of Shakespeare in Love. I could have made of Shakespeare in Love, except I'd have to acknowledge, goddamn, was it funny? Totally unrealistic. No context. The Queen wouldn't do any of this stuff. All the stuff I'm talking about now, except perhaps I don't think Shakespeare was a big political reformer. But damn, that was a funny movie. It was funny, and so I think that's one of the things that. Kind of hits this one. Katie wants to make sure everyone knows she did not pick the movie. Absolutely correct. We were more, Katie, just so you know, we're more knocking ourselves like, wow, we still managed to pick a movie where children are endangered.
Maybe all movies have that. We just never realized it before.
Could be. You know what? I still think this would pass the baby test. A baby's not threatened. It even mushes through that.
Yes.
Anyway. Yeah. Richard's got a bit of a run here. What do we got here? Richard, comments. Rob, totally agree. Idea that charity is the answer fits completely into the U.S. model where structural change, labor laws, taxation reform, vacation benefits, etc. barely ever get off the ground. Also says, surprising, too, that a movie early on showed miserly rich men frowning upon the idea of giving December 25th as a paid day off, but then never follow up. Instead, we get the charity mention. The movie could have instead closed with text mentioning labor and social reform that followed in Britain over the following decades. You're absolutely right, Richard. Yeah, I agree completely. Jim, what do you think? Feel free to say we're just full of crap. We're a couple of Marxists. Well, okay, I don't think Richard's a Marxist. But you can say to your Marxist co-host, quit politicizing it. Well, let Tiny Tim just live.
I think it was just to the tone, like the makers decided to go for a certain tone. And I think it's really hard to incorporate the kind of stuff that you guys are talking about. And still have this, fun for the whole family kind of.
No, you're absolutely right.
I think it's an exercise in tone more than anything. When they, my wife and I, back when they had DVDs, kids, we would often watch the deleted scenes.
Kids,
and often they're taken out because it affects the tone of the movie, but more often than not. My wife and I thought, well, why the hell did they take this out? It humanizes this character, or it adds something to their story.
Makes that character more interesting.
Something else. I refer explicitly to the Fellowship of the Ring and the extra scenes with Boromir, which are actually on the extended edition, and it totally changes his character. Instead of being sort of an aggrieved, type A personality, sort of toxic masculinity, he's a lot more balanced, and is actually quite generous with the hobbits.
And liked by the hobbits.
Yeah, so those are all aspects of tone that I, as a non-filmmaker, I sometimes totally don't get. But like with anything, there's a lot at play here. So.
I want to let's note right now Jelly Duck, who's got an awesome ukulele, is playing Jingle Bells on his ukulele, and this is the moment we need this in the stream. Jelly Duck should be like our official ukulele band, Jim. And we just have him in the stream, just strumming away a bit, just keeping things going. We're gonna make that arrangement, Ahmed. We will book you in future. Okay, Vlad. Okay, comments. Yes, Lord of the director cuts are the only ones to watch. Lord of the Rings director cuts are the only ones to watch. You know, and I'd agree with Vlad. Yeah, you're right on that, Jim. Or actually, are you saying that?
And
I'm not.
No, that's it's a little different than a deleted scene, but that's essentially what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Shashank has not watched this movie. Oh, Shashank.
Oh.
You're gonna have to stick. I mean, as Jim said, spoiler alert: the book gets written. I don't think anything we're saying in this. You know what? And I put this to Richard and Katie as well. Anyone who's seen the movie in the chat, please comment. But Jim, would you agree with me? I don't think anything we've said ruins the movie.
No.
Go ahead. Yep.
Sometimes I even think, sort of famously in our household, The Sixth Sense was spoiled for me. We had a friend over for the Oscars, and he sort of dropped the ending all those years ago. We were living in Vancouver at the time. So the day after, Carla had already seen it with a friend. So the day after, I went to the movie theater just on my own to watch it. And knowing that knowing the twist, it actually it may seem like I'm shoehorning this in, but as a good experience. But knowing the twist makes you appreciate the courage of the Haley Jean Osment character even more, because you know what he's going through. Like, he's actually confronting the thing he's most afraid of. So the twist was ruined, but I sort of was able to appreciate it on a different level, almost like watching it for the second time kind of thing. So sometimes it's the journey, right? You may know the ending, but it's the journey that's the important part.
And that's a great point, Jim. The reason a good twist works is a good movie already. And then the twist is like, giving you an extra, it's like giving an extra inning of a great game. You're watching one of the best baseball games ever, and then all of a sudden, oh my God, there's a whole other inning. This is amazing. I couldn't agree with you more, Jim. I'm wondering on that, and I'm going to go back to Tenet. You know what? We'll have to either do a deep dive or, it'll be. I don't think you were given a shoehorn. I think, but I think this would be too much of it'd be flirting with a shoehorn.
Okay.
But there is something similar there. All right. Okay, Shashank. The director cuts are the best at Vlad 65. Jim, what do you think there?
Well, totally different set of movies, but I quite enjoy being an old time Lord of the Rings geek. I appreciate all the extras that are thrown in, and
Well, I'm wondering, Shashank, do you mean like director's cuts, full stop, or just the context in what we were discussing, director's cuts of Lord of the Ring movies, or let's call them the extended versions? Because I think even Peter Jackson wasn't saying, no, we cut this for theatrical release, but we had more movie, we shot more movie, and he was always thinking of the DVD, and I don't think he was, the way we think of a director's cut where other forces get involved, but this was the director's vision. I think in the extended ones of Lord of the Rings, he was like, no, this is a plenty fine movie for the theatrical release. But I know I've got a DVD I'm shooting for as well, so I can put this stuff in, and it'll still be a good movie, even better for the big fan. You know, are you buying that or?
Yeah. Well, especially with something like Lord of the Rings, he had a captive audience, so that's that. I mean, with other movies, perhaps less so, but he was toying with the hearts of a pretty big fandom there. So
all right, we got some more comments. Next up from Vlad. Vlad65 says, interesting that movies like the Alistair Sim Christmas Carol version does blend social commentary with feel-good ending, just like the book. Now, I think that's a great point. What do you think there, Jim? I think this goes back to that tone thing.
Yeah.
Tone thing. I don't mean it pejoratively like that, but
they work at some of the details of business back in that, like they sort of deal more with the day-to-day. Like there's quite a lot of office scenes and workplace scenes and that sort of thing too. If we can, I want to talk about that one a little bit later. The Alistair Sim.
Okay, all right.
Well, and further to that, folks, if you have favorite Christmas movies, I think Rob and I were talking about spending the last few minutes of today talking about our Christmas movies.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, put that in the chat. Your top 3, let's say.
Yeah.
At a nice limit because we've got a good chat going on. All right. Now here's something Shashank said about movies being spoiled. Usual Suspects, 7, Fight Club, Gone Girl, Memento, and Psycho got spoiled for Shashank. Having that out of the way actually allows me, Shashank, to appreciate the finer nuances of the film more. I can see where Shashank's coming from here. That doesn't mean that you should just go running amok and spoil films. But it's for the people, the big spoiler police, think it's ruined. It's like, you're missing the forest for the trees, man. Like, and the other thing is that there's a lot of good research about how people react with story. We kind of wanted, a part of a satisfactory ending is the ending we expect. Mm-hmm. If we're not given what we expect, like at its core, we're going, well, what movie was I here for? What is one of my biggest whines about this movie? It's not the movie I expected. I thought there'd be, I get it. It's a comedy about the creative process, but it's also something about the invention of Christmas. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's right there in the title.
Yeah.
It has not met my expectations.
And I sort of wonder if the book is more of a sort of an argument like that. It almost seems like a thesis or like an essay topic. That
is my understanding.
This is rather than the dramatic sort of path that the Dickens undertakes. Yeah.
But what's interesting, and I even thought of this, and folks, think of other non-fiction movie or non-fiction books that were adapted into fictional movies. Moneyball, great book by Michael Lewis. Liar's Poker, the Fifth Column, the Fifth Risk. Just a great non-fiction writer. Wrote Moneyball. Used the Oakland A's as a starting point to talk about sabermetrics and the whole Moneyball analysis of baseball and how it kind of took over Major League Baseball. Got turned into a dramatic film and made statistics interesting. Like it basically went, no, we're going to look at these three characters. We're going to have, and it worked. I thought it really worked. Maybe one of my best movies of the last 10 years. One of my favorites. Kind of saying that. Shawshank was referring to Lord of the Rings as far as the director's cut are the best.
Okay.
There we go.
So I just wanted to bring up the other one that I mentioned earlier.
Alistair Sim, and then the teaser. Folks, do you have any guesses? I do have a guess now.
Sure. Fire away.
Okay. I think you're referring to the time when Patrick Stewart, as captain of the Enterprise, went into the holodeck, because, of course, the holodeck. And there's a whole Christmas Carol adventure in there. Am I right?
I hate to disappoint you, but no. I'd be curious
swung.
to watch that one. Yes. No, that was... you're sort of in the right realm, though. What I'm referring to is the third episode of the completely rebooted Doctor Who series. It's called The Unquiet Dead, and it aired. It was the year they did them with Christopher Eccleston as the Doctor, and
that first one.
That very first one, and he only lasted a year, kind of famously, but it was the whole big rollout. And that was before David Tennant got there. But Simon Callow, who plays the illustrator in this one, played Charles Dickens. So the Doctor and Rose go back 1869, and Charles
year
Dickens,
before his death.
Yes, and Charles Dickens is sort of estranged from his family.
He's been living with his.
Yeah, he had a complicated.
His basically his can't even call her lover, like his second wife. You know,
and he was in Cardiff. It was the whole thing with Doctor Who when it started out. It was filmed in Wales, so they always had these Cardiff in jokes. Anyway, so he's doing a lecture series. He happens to be in Cardiff on Christmas Eve, and he intersects with the Doctor and Rose, and there's a fissure, some sort of space-time fissure, right in that area of Cardiff. And these gaseous beings they're going through this one particular funeral home and animating the corpses as they try to regain their own form. And the most interesting part of this, it's one of those spaghetti thrown against the wall episodes where there's a Christmas Eve seance, and if you describe it, it sounds like a disaster, but it's super touching, and I just watched it again earlier today.
Just to get your head in this space?
Yeah, because I wanted to get some quotes, and it started off with Simon Callow, who I think I cut myself off, but he played the cranky illustrator in this movie. He was, we can't do that, it's too late. That guy. Yeah. He had played Dickens a bunch of times before, but in this one, Dickens is tired. Mm-hmm. And he actually says at one point, I've thought everything that I'm going to think. Like he has a stagehand who's sort of saying, you're Charles Dickens, sir. He goes, well, I'm not the same guy. I don't have this. My imagination is running out. I'm never going to have another original thought. And he runs into Rose and the Doctor, and they have this kind of a romp adventure. And
perhaps an original thought occurs to him after that. Well,
he says, can it be that I have the world entirely wrong? And it's because they unveil these, he picks up on the fact that the Doctor's not from here, mm-hmm. and Rose is potentially from the future. And anytime the Doctor meets these great minds, they kind of figure it out pretty quick who the Doctor is. Yeah. If not entirely, they have an idea that he's not from here. Anyway,
something's up.
So the episode ends, and he's totally rejuvenated, and he doesn't know everything. And what's the Shakespeare quote about the all the all the theories
We're
in
all-
heaven and earth. He actually says it during the episode, but
And
basically,
perhaps the Balmoral Street research irregulars can help us out with that Shakespearean
that's one of the
quote.
ones I didn't write down. But anyway, it's super touching. I watched it again. It's a tight 50 minutes episode. It's on Vimeo, and it's a really great portrayal of Dickens, and it's super touching. Like it was when we started watching it. My son was, I think, 8 at that time, and yeah, it was one of the first ones we'd watched together. And I thought, this is scary enough to be interesting to him. It's challenging enough to be a good watch, and it had that sort of swashbuckly feel that the rest of the series had. So we ended up watching it from then on. But it's a great episode, The Unquiet Dead. So anyway, that's my.
What? Let's continue on this for a second. Is there before, and we got some more comments we should get to, but I'm wondering, Jim, what is your, and I think we can include, maybe this is in the running, and I think it's a reasonable one. What is your favorite version of A Christmas Carol? You know, like, I mean, we've got a more modernized one, Scrooged, which was, Bill Murray, like, still at the early peak of his powers. I'm kind of curious, and that goes for everyone in the chat. What was your favorite version of A Christmas Carol? And you can pick the Doctor Who one. Let's keep this open.
That'd probably be second. I have to say that my favorite, and this goes in with my favorite Christmas movie, is absolutely Alistair Sim's 1951 Scrooge.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that? What?
It's really nicely shot. Number one, and because it is a ghost story, but it's got almost in the way that Lord of the Rings has horror elements. Scrooge 51 has horror elements. There's the way that the staircase upstairs are lit, and it's all just it's all just lines, and everything's lit from below. And
make it a little more bent, and it's like some German expressionist film.
Yes, yeah, it almost looks
like
something.
Oh, and there's Nosferatu, kind of. Wrong movie. Wrong set. Sorry.
A silent movie, kind of like M, kind of not M.
Marlowe saying, "Get out of here, yes."
Yeah.
German long-tooth spoke.
It's super well shot. And Alistair Sim has that great voice and the great carriage. There's one other movie called An Inspector Calls, which is based on a J.B. Priestley play that's on Canopy. I started watching that and ran out of time because every year I say, I'm going to watch another Alistair Sim movie. I'm gonna chase this guy down, and I never do. So at least I've started. But he's got a great voice. He embodies the character, and it's super true to who Scrooge is. Even at the end, when he's decided to take it easy on Cratchit and be gregarious and help him out with his family, Cratchit walks into the office, and he's still an asshole. He plays it like a practical joke.
Yeah.
He goes, "I understand you put another lump of coal on the fire. I'll not have any of that, Cratchit." And he's laughing to himself, and in a way, he's still being a bully. But Cratchit doesn't know.
There's a childlike demeanor,
like an asshole older brother kind of thing.
But yeah, if memory serves, the way Sim played it was like he was immediately lighter.
Yes,
like the best portrayals is where they physically become lighter. There's a spring to their step. They have the burdens, the chains, the Marlowe-esque chains they have put on themselves. In one night of redemption, they've shaken those chains off. Damn it! Now I'm actually getting a little verklempt.
I'm gonna sit on my head. Why don't I sit on my head? And he does this whole thing. And this is before the age of the fancy Scorsese one-shot take.
Yeah.
But when he has his I guess his redemption in the morning, when he's still
running around the room,
it's sort of a it's as long as you're going to get with something like that. And there's little things too, like in the mirror.
He said, no, we put it on the tripod here.
Yeah.
Set up a dolly. What are you, a Rockefeller? Where did we get the money for dolly track?
What, Cole? There's one shot actually, and I think they've
this camera's steam powered, boy.
Gotta wind it up. It's Cole from Wales, straight from Wales. But there's one shot actually, and it's one of those ghost in 3 men of the baby and a baby kind of things, and it's probably a crew member. But Scrooge looks into a mirror, and the mirror is just sort of near his window, and he looks into it and he walks away from it, and you can see a crew member who's got a suit, like a side part and a tie, and he's just sort of standing in the back.
The way crew dressed.
Yes, yeah.
Listen, Jim, I'm going to interject briefly,
but it's he's great. Yeah, the whole thing's great. I just love it every year.
Okay, we've got a few we've loaded up on some comments here that we should work through. But first, I think, Jim, it's time. It's that time to beg folks for your like. Oh, please. Ask for the subscription if you haven't already. And then, of course, ring the bell.
I'll do both.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chamoyko, bringing that little bit of extra, the sleigh bells into it. All right, let's, I've got I can't see it's my favorite, but I do have one I'm particularly fond of. But first I wanted to, we've got a few, the chat's doing well. Let's go back to, so Vlad, earlier in the conversation, we were talking about making certain things that might be dry interesting. Queen's Gambit gives boring chess a boost, with a character who's based on, kind of a Bobby Fischer kind of character. I don't know about you, Jim. Like, I get why people are into it. I couldn't get past she got good at chess because she got high. Like, that just kind of stopped me. I may have to just let go of that, force myself past that point, and see if I can get back into it. But you're absolutely right, Vlad. Like, it's made chess cool all of a sudden.
I'm waiting for the Queen's Gambit Mandalorian crossover, so I won't start watching until then. I hear you play chess.
I will not spoil the end of The Mandalorian season 2.
We're on episode 3.
But it was awesome.
We're on episode 3, season 1 now.
Awesome.
So I decided to take the jump.
Okay, so Vlad, of course, in those days, BBC let you do Christmas-themed shows instead of making them non-denominational. I don't know, like, heck, this thing came out, clearly about Christmas. I'm not sure
BBC,
about
though?
that. No, it wasn't. But
okay.
I guess, yeah, you know what? First of all, I'm perfectly fine, Vlad, with the happy holidays. The country's changed. I'm okay with it. But actually, for Christ's sakes, when are you referring to, Vlad, BBC, like, the BBC didn't make that Alistair Sim one, or is talking about, might have been talking about your reference, Jim, to Doctor Who.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, it continues.
That was
Vlad, you are the man. There are more things in heaven and earth than are found in your philosophies.
Yeah, I just blanked out on that one.
Thank you very much. We may need to add another person to the the Balmoral Street Research Irregulars. Thank you very much, Vlad. Jelly Duck being a bit of taking the piss, as they'd say in England. It could be the hobbits are horror elements.
They bow to
come
nobody.
on.
They bow to nobody. Aragorn said.
Yeah. Vlad, Sim, so well acted, and I haven't seen it so many times in Canada, over 20, that it has become real to me. And yes, the ghost of the future, really scared. Yeah, no, but even I was terrified by Marlowe. Like, I mean, like, it's really kind of fascinating the way they balance that. Then you have the Ghost of Christmas Past, and she was ethereal and spooky, but not, yeah, it really is. It's a great story, so easily adapted because it is so tight, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it almost meant to be adapted into film. He's writing screenplays before he knew it. Well, almost like a graphic novel. Illustrations were an important part.
Directed by Brian Desmond Hurst. I'm just looking up that. I don't think I knew that before, but anyway.
You know what, though? It sounds exactly like a film that would have been written by directed by a Brian Desmond Hurst.
Yes.
Okay, Ahmed, what do you call a snowman with a six-pack? The abdominal snowman. Oh my god! Oh, we're getting the groaners out.
That's kind of funny, but
all right.
I hadn't heard that one before. So a guy from the Middle East tells us a snowman joke that I've never heard before. So.
And here we are. Well, we're trying to... That's awesome. Okay, Shashank, much like myself, turned off Queen's Gambit after 10 minutes. Couldn't get into it. Now, I guess this is to you, Jim, also to Shashank. You know what? I'm trying to think of... There's been TV shows I just couldn't get into, And then later on, it's like, oh, what the hell? I'll give this another shot. And then I was like, okay, I get it. Can I think of that TV show right now? No, I cannot. My bad. But what about you?
Queen's Gambit, well, in general, the shows that I couldn't get into,
Yeah, I don't know. Like, no, have you had that experience where you couldn't get into it and then you revisited it later? Because I do. I think I'll revisit Queen's Gambit.
Sometimes they stall out, depending on how available something is. I still never finished The Sopranos. I'm sort of around season 5, and I should really. I have Crave, but God, there's just so much to take in these days. It's kind of insane,
and so much good stuff, great stuff. Okay, Vlad. Queen's Gambit was from a novel by Tevis, who wrote The Hustler, Color of Money, Man Who Fell to Earth, all super skilled people with flaws.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I did not know that either. Thank you very much. Yes, I think we may have to add another name to the Balmoral Street Research Irregulars, the BSRI. Okay. Now let's go back to favorite. I have always had, it's going to sound a little ridiculous, always had a soft spot for, and I remember the George C. Scott version, was never really impressed. Scrooge spoke to me more. Maybe the modern setting, like the modern setting really worked. Because yes, the George C. Scott one was an American Christmas Carol.
Oh, yeah.
Set in New England, if memory serves. But I always had, and I always had a soft spot for the Muppet Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
Like, it had a certain sweetness, and I was probably the right age to see it when it came out, or I don't know, a fondness.
Yeah,
Is it my favorite? Oh, that's a tough one. I probably lean, if I was forced to be some kind of like a Futurama version, or like some sort of ridiculous take on it, like a parody of it. But yeah. I certainly wouldn't put this in, if there's 10 of them, this one would not crack the top 10. Although, yeah, again, I did enjoy some of the aspects of the writer visualizing these characters and trying to hear them, trying to evoke them, you know,
the pushback too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That
And
was very interesting.
And I even like what do you think? You're a professional writer, Jim. That idea of the characters not doing what you wanted them to do. So going back to something Vlad said earlier, you know, sometimes when it's getting lectury or preachy, there's the writer saying, I don't care what makes sense for the character as I've created them. This is coming out of their mouth now.
Yeah.
You know, whereas it's like, okay, I got to kind of make sure what's coming out of the mouth fits the person I've created, you know? I'm not so much on the magical mumbo jumbo. I get it. One of my favorite translations of the Odyssey starts with the singing me muse of the man of many ways, which is so Greek, so no writer is brilliant. It's the muses have chosen to speak through them. Singing me muse of the man of many ways. I don't think that's actually how it works. But I get why writers think that. I've come up with some story stuff myself where I'm going, I didn't make that. Something subconscious was working that I have zero control over.
And there's an aspect of show don't tell, you know, that kind of thing too. I think more, and I write more articles for magazines. His treatment is more fictional characters.
Yeah.
So
but at the same time,
sometimes
you still
things
got to tell a
work.
story.
Yeah, and you have an idea of what you want to do, and that doesn't always turn out the way you want sometimes. But
All right, a few more comments on it's for Shashank, talking about losing interest in a show. Shashank's one of Shashank's favorites, Breaking Bad. Shashank says in the chat, I've had moments like that with other TV shows. I couldn't get past the first season of Breaking Bad. Saw season 2, episode 2 after 3 months and was hooked. Apparently, ended up changing his life. You know, were you, Shashank? I think I saw you on Twitter, but wasn't there a live stream with the Better Call Saul folks? Were you a part of that? Tell us about it. All right. Katie says, yes, Muppet Christmas Carol. Awesome. Oh, this is interesting. Katie has a soft spot for the Disney version. You know, which, well, now I got to look it up because I might be mistaking it with another one.
Okay, I was going along with it too, and I thought, wait, what? Which one is
here?
that?
I'm looking this up. Jim, why don't you, okay, Shashank, if you can kind of read off this.
Yeah,
and,
sure. I'll read off
people chatting while.
So he says, yes, characters end up becoming the vessels of writers' thoughts. Criticism against Amir Khan movies are that they end up becoming quite preachy. Well, I haven't seen a lot of those, but yeah. And then Vlad, I'm sure Rob will bring it up. Vlad says muses sounds like Amadeus MM. I think that he's going for. While Rob is doing that, let us know your favorite Christmas movies, folks. As I said, mine is Scrooge, 1951. One of Rob's, anyways, is Muppet Christmas Carol. I can't remember what year that was. Was it in the 70s, 79 or something?
79, maybe 80, but I think it was 78, 79. I'll bring it up. Katie, are you talking about... I'm just going to share a screen quickly. Katie, is this the one you're talking about? With Jim Carrey? Let us know. Let us know in the chat. back to one of my probably my favorite Christmas movie. Still slam dunk, had no problem. I've owned multiple versions of it. Is the original animated Grinch who stole Christmas.
Oh yes, yeah.
Just Boris Karloff, like it's just, that's a brilliant and such an honest and true adaptation. No actor with their but I have to put my stamp on it, like just a really sweet telling and an honest telling. Because going back to the tone things, I think some of the things, what makes for a great sweet ending is some risk, is some stakes, is some frightening. And I think, when you try and make something fun for the whole family, you end up with a mushy kind of, well, it's a comedy, no one's gonna laugh, but it's fun.
Yeah,
certainly not frightening. I think this one hits that because Seuss had no problem making it a little scary.
Yeah.
Little risky, and so I think that's got to be. I think that's.
And kids
I think it's my favorite. I think it's my favorite Christmas movie.
Kids end up eating that kind of stuff up too. They love sort of being, nicely scared, not Exorcist scared, but like Scrooge, not Scrooge, Grinch. That's a nice level there.
Yeah. Shashank, yes, there's a live stream every week with the cast members of Breaking Bad. Oh, so that's weekly. Oh, is that ever? Well, that's cool. Ambitious. Better Call Saul and El Camino on the Music Gear Network channel. So had an opportunity to ask questions to the cast. Shashank, did you learn anything about the show that made it better or kind of confused you? Kind of curious. Then Katie just straight up says no.
Not that Jim Carrey version, I think.
Okay, all right. So I will look for the other one. Yeah, now I'm kind of lost there. I wonder, there was a great animated version. It looked like animated pencil drawing version. I'll see if I can't find that as well. Let's get up. So Shashank talking about Peter Gould in the last episode. Vlad 65. He's with you, Jim. We got 2 votes for the Alistair Sim version. Katie. The Mickey Mouse version.
Oh, I was going to say.
It was a tradition to watch it every Christmas as a kid. Is that ever adorable?
Was Scrooge McDuck involved, or is that...
Got it, right? Oh, it was 1983. All right, bringing it up here, folks.
I'm curious, who played what?
Well, of course, Mickey has to be Bob Cratchit, right?
Yeah. I'm starving to death. Yay! I don't know.
That is terrible. Here, let me pull up O Tannenbaum a little louder. Okay. Ooh, and I've even found on a terribly ad-heavy website 10 things we might not know about Mickey's Christmas Carol. Mickey's Christmas Carol. I find this quite adorable here, Katie. All right, here we go.
I suspect that's the ending. You're giving it away.
Oh yeah, another spoiled movie. No one will be able to watch it. The Disney, Mickey's Christmas Carol ended on an up note.
This is worse than the Red Wedding.
Oh, that's terrible. All right. Okay, back to the chat, because, wow, people, we got to pop in once we get, we're getting everyone talking about Christmas. Oh, ooh, Shashank. bringing in the first of all, Katie, thank you very much for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
That's and yes, I vaguely remember this, but by then I was 16. I think it was like why would I watch it? Now all of a sudden I kind of do. Okay, so Shashank, the top 3 Christmas vacations. This is this is great. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, Home Alone. Yeah, I can imagine for a certain generation, that's got to be like the definitive Christmas movie. And then, of course, Die Hard. Your man after my own heart, Shashank. All right. What? Any comments on those 3, Jim? Like, where would you put any of those in a top 10 list, or all of them? I think if I had a top 10 list, they'd not Home Alone, never really my thing, but the other 2 definitely on the list.
Yeah, it's been a while since I watched the Christmas Vacation, National Lampoon's. I should watch it again. When I'm not so beardy, I always used to get compared. Everyone said that I looked like Randy Quaid, so that's a little bit of a the less handsome.
Oh, that's what, Jim.
Brother.
That's going to be a hard thing not to get out of my head.
Yeah,
even with the beard now, get it a little bigger, and it's Randy Quaid now.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue. My apologies. My
so
bad.
That's a little bit of a sore spot, but anyway, and he's also batshit crazy now too. So that
yeah, really. What the hell? All right, so Vlad65 says, one of the great things of original Grinch was not needing a blasted backstory. Yes, Vlad. Yes, you are 100% correct. And more. If it didn't mathematically make sense, I'd say 110% correct. Anyway, continuing. Sorry. I kind of got enthusiastic there.
No.
But Vlad, one of the great things of original Grinch was not needing a blasted backstory to make you feel sorry for Grinch before he reforms, which ruins the remakes. That's a great point. There is, we're already given it. He's got too small a heart, but then it makes it 3 times bigger. And all the little Whovilles, the Who's of Whoville, it's the power of their connection, their lack of, yes.
Little side note about Boris Karloff's career, because I wrote about it for the it's now called Canada History, but it used to be known as the Beaver magazine. But Boris Karloff actually got his first paid acting gigs initially working for a repertory theater company out of Kamloops, British Columbia.
Really?
And he did live theater throughout the West and the Midwest states, North Dakota. All the little towns had these great opera houses at the time, most of which are gone. And he was actually in Regina for what they called the Great Regina Cyclone about 120 years ago. And he was part of the relief team. So he would...
Really?
His company was stuck there. It was a tornado. They called it a cyclone mistakenly. And it nailed downtown Regina, killed a bunch of folks. And he helped out with the relief, and they would put on shows and things like that. So I wrote this article about him, and I was about to race off to my restaurant job after the issue came out. And I said, just one last little check of my email before I, get there just on time. And there was an email, and it said Karloff, from Karloff. And it turned out to be his daughter, who said, "Oh, excellent article. Thanks so much. I didn't know that much about his time there. It turns out she lives in Rancho Cucamonga, or she does in California."
Yeah, that's
and then
awesome.
He ran a letter to the editor about it from her. So that was kind of a nice little tie-in anyway.
That's great. That gets me a little Christmas misty, Jim. That's very sweet. All right, we're getting a shout out for Jim. Great. Katie says, great impression, Jim. I'm not sure what the impression you did, though.
I'm starting to death, yay. That's my Mickey Bob Cratchit.
Right.
Tiny
For
Tim,
Mickey.
you're
Oh,
gonna die.
Mickey, yes. I can't believe that's going to be part of our annual hot takes. You know, but we don't even. I could do like the short version review of that and just take that one take. All right. Sorry, I'm getting a little punchy here. Okay. Shashank says, it was quite interesting to understand the process of writing a TV show. He's talking about the live streams that the Better Call Saul, etc. folks do. Oftentimes writing for me feels instinctive. Watching the show made me realize that there's a very scientific process to it. You know what? I think you'd agree. Like there's a bit of a grind, and structure is structure, and you know that doesn't mean though that the inspiration still doesn't play a part.
Yeah.
You know, there is an instinct to tell story, which is human. Oh, I will put it in, I'll probably pin it. I just finished a book, Jim. Great book. Is it The Storytelling Animal? Now he's an English prof, an American English prof, but he did kind of a survey of a lot of the science and research around storytelling. And, but yeah, we are a storytelling, and that's his thesis. You know, we're a storytelling animal. But it's a great book if you want to get into kind of the, for anybody out there who wants to get a little more of the science of storytelling, why it's something we respond to. Like he makes a couple of arguments that I'm not sure 100% borne out in the research, but he's not, like he's pushing the envelope, but he's not tearing it apart. Like he's not, you know, some of these folks are like, kind of, whoa, you've stretched this into this, you know, it broke a while ago. Yeah. All right. Finishing off his comment, writing. And then, and yes, that is Shashank. That is what I assumed, although I did read it verbatim. Wanted to make sure everyone that he meant the top 3 Christmas movies, not the top 3 vacation movies. Although one of our followers is going to be with us next month to talk about vacation movies in the time of COVID-19 and movies that you could that may take you on a, you know, not a physical and emotional journey while you're kind of stuck here. And we'll be, you may know her already. Her name may be Katie Fowler. Anyway, so stay tuned for that. That's in the new year. That's in January. I believe we got her first booked up for the 4th, if memory serves, but we'll, next week we'll confirm that. What else, Jim? Before we get into final thoughts, is there any, maybe we should talk about what we're going to watch next week. A movie that I have a high degree of confidence we will not have to reschedule or change at the last minute. Are you up for that? Are you into that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Netflix goes broke? No, I'm just kidding. Speaking of which, we're taking a look at George Clooney and The Midnight Sky, which is not out yet, I don't believe, but is coming
out on the 23rd.
In several days, yeah. So there'll be a lot of...
In 3 days.
Yeah, it's the 20th already. Holy crap.
Wow, eh?
Yikes.
Yeah, folks. So the whoops, let me take that off your face there, Jim. Sorry. Yeah, The Midnight Sky. It's on Netflix. It's a Netflix original. And what the heart of it, it's kind of sci-fi. George Clooney, little girl, trying to get to everything environmentally has gone into the crapper, and they're trying to warn a spaceship that is coming back, a spaceship that went out there to find a new home for us. It's coming back, and he's trying to stop them, saying, don't waste your time. We're done here. Just, you know, and I'm not quite 100% sure how quite that all works out.
Yeah.
But I am looking forward to the movie. That'll be next week, the 27th, 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. So Sunday evening, 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Of course, Universal Time Code -6. And yeah, that's or Universal Coordinated Time -6. So yes, we're looking forward to seeing you guys next week. But before that, Jim, why don't you? Oh, and another thing, I just want to. I'll put up our social media. Contacts if you want to, follow us on Twitter or Instagram, continue the conversation during the week. Here's Jim's handles on those platforms. Jim, why don't you tell us about what are your final thoughts on this flick, and of course, is it worth people's time?
There's a lot of options out there. If you're sick of the sort of the magic takes of it, I think I was going to go on a big ramble about how Elf gets publishing completely wrong, but I got distracted. And it really is. I can barely watch Elf because James Caan is just, he's misprinting things and forgetting pages and stuff. Anyway, and he's super sloppy, and he doesn't even seem like a publisher. And they're rushing a thing after Christmas for the big January book market. Is that what? Anyway, I could don't get me started.
Well, you know what? Continue this on social media.
Yeah, exactly. But I'll do it like hot take. Yeah. Elf is horrible because of its views on publishing. But anyway, yeah, no, it's worth a watch. I was going to say it's actually on CBC Gem if you're in Canada, and it was on CBC TV last night. That was their primetime movie at between 8 and 10.
Which, like the movie we watched? Yeah. Oh, yeah. For Christ's sakes.
It was like, oh, this looks familiar. Oh, yeah, we're going to be doing it. I ended up watching it after midnight myself, which I
rented this thing. Oh, son of a...
And I just realized that I was going to rent it too. And then after midnight, I realized that it was on Gem. So, but there was commercials. So that's maybe
yeah. And at least we had that great nudity scene that probably would have been edited out by those stiffs at those Puritans over at CBC
Broadcasting Corporation. Yeah, no, not bad. A bit of a different thing. Not so in your face with the Christmas stuff. Not bad. Dan Stevens, he's kind of fun, and it's nice to see Christopher Plummer again, as I mentioned before. And
he was fantastic. Yeah,
I liked it. It was good. Typically after Christmas, I'm sort of done with Christmas movies and things like that. So, and then you go on to things like The Midnight Sky. So, that's not entirely a bad thing, but there's a lot of bad Christmas movies out there. This isn't one of them. That's what I guess I can say.
Yeah, you know what, Jim? I think I'll take over. I'll take over from there. I would. Okay, I'll agree with you. It's not bad, but I'm damning it with faint praise. That's the best I think this movie can say. Is it's not terrible. But I'm not sure I could tell someone, oh yeah, it's worth your time. You know what? This would be about the only way this movie is worth anyone's time. If you're stuck, otherwise you're like, you got to put some Christmas nonsense on the tube. That's what you want. You can't find a good one. And you're like almost about to click on some of that Lifetime or Hallmark or even Netflix tripe.
Yeah.
Princess Identical. Oh, they're switching again. Or, oh, affluent white woman owns shop, has a black friend.
Yeah.
But needs romance with an attractive white male who stumbles in. Like, yes, then, oh God, watch this. Save yourself at least from that nonsense.
Yes.
Yeah. But otherwise, yeah, I'd have a hard time saying, yeah, it's worth your time. Otherwise, like you won't. I never like we've watched a couple where I'm like, I resent every minute I've spent on this. And I don't feel that way. It was a perfectly pleasant film.
Yeah.
Innocuous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad.
But
to recommend it, I want more than that. It's got to be a little bit of meat, a little bit of stew in the stew. Somebody's promised me stew, and I'm like, this is like gravy soup.
Yeah. I was going to mention it a little bit earlier, but it does kind of remind me of the Tolkien movie that was released a couple of years ago about the backstory of Tolkien.
That's a great, yeah. Yeah, and also had that kind of a very... There's so much more that could have been done, Jim.
Yeah.
With that movie.
Bad. It wasn't bad, but it was sort of the same kind of, like a little bit of an asterisk movie, like a footnote movie, I guess you can say. And Nicholas Hoult, they did some neat things in it, but it was tonally a lot like that, sort of.
You know what? That's that's a great comparison. So much more could have been done. The subject matter is interesting. I would have loved to have learned more about, hey, this is Christmas before, this is what it is now. And there's a million ways you can do that. You do the present into the past, back to the present, bookends, there's a lot of techniques. But I love that. Okay, we got a last couple of comments. First of all, Shashank. You know what? I am going to... so Shashank is definitely hard lobbying for a Tenet deep dive, Jim. For the new year, he's going to be looking forward to both of our Tenet deep dive.
Maybe we've already done it.
Or maybe we're about to do it last week. Who knows? Can't watch it yet as parents are not allowing him into the theater, and rightfully so. We'll need to wait for it on streaming. It is streaming here in North America. And we're no rush to do it. Like I said, we got something coming up on January 4th, sometime in the new year. But it's funny, as I read that, I'd love for everyone for next week. We've kind of talked about some of our favorite Christmas movies, although I don't think Richard's chimed in yet. Maybe next week, Jim, because we're going to take a look. We're going to take a look back. We're going to take some time in that show to look back on the year, because we've been doing this for coming up on 9 months now. Yeah. How many podcasts didn't get past somebody spending too much money on a podcast mic?
Yeah.
And we've really done it. And I think we should kind of look at some of the best from the last year, but I'm kind of wondering what people are looking forward to for next year. We'll take a look back. Love to hear what people thought of the movies they saw because of the podcast, and what some of their favorites were, what some of their ones where it's like, boy, dodged a bullet there, or thanks for nothing, Chaboyko and Christensen. But yeah, we're going to take a bit of a retrospective, bit of a look into the new year. Love to hear what you guys, what everyone in the chat, anyone who sees this after when it's just out there as a podcast, what they think of what they're looking forward to next year when it comes to cinema and television. You know what? We can throw that in there as well. Okay, so here we go. Vlad. Going to watch the Doctor Who Dickens episode on Crave. I may do that myself. That's a great idea, Vlad. Love to see that. Okay, Shashank. He's got a question for us both. Question for both of you. Do you actively seek out watching the best movies or the movies which are the most interesting for discussion? That's a great question, Shashank. Yeah. Jim, why don't you take that one first, and then I'll...
Well, this kind of all started, Shashank, with... Rob and I have been going to movies for years. There's a certain kind of movie, though. I'm married, as we've discussed before. And my wife often takes a look at an ad for a movie coming out, and she says, "Ugh, feel free to go see that with Rob." So there's a certain kind of movie that she wants to see, and there's a certain kind of movie that she doesn't want to see. And that's typically, the I guess the boys' movie night out is the kind of movies that we select.
One of the reasons we're pretty genre heavy, I'd say, eh, Jim?
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
yeah, just things that sort of seem interesting to us that may not be entirely obvious. Sometimes not the number one box office or the newest release, but something that we're sort of curious about. We did a Western earlier just because we wanted to do a Western and that kind of thing. But it's interesting. Some of the movies that do really well, we had a lot of views for Fat Man a couple weeks ago, and just sort of out of the blue almost, and I think it's movies that people are curious about, that they may want to get a better sense about, maybe.
I'm not like, I mean, I'm thinking Shashank's question is more, why do we pick the movies we do?
Yeah,
I don't think I think we can show we're definitely not picking. We're learning what people may search and click on, but we're not. I don't think we pick them that way, though. I don't think we've picked a movie yet. We're like, oh, this will get us traction.
Yeah.
Although sometimes I'm like, boy, these Norwegian films.
Yeah. Which we haven't done in a while, but
no. Although you teased me today, you big jerk.
Oh yeah.
I think Shashank, yeah, like Jim said, some of it is, and it started with genre production, in part because it's the, the movies that Jim and I would go to, the movies that, Jim's wife Carla would say, yeah, you can watch that with Rob. I have zero interest, but I do think that is changing, Jim. I don't think I don't think we would have seen this movie in the theater. I don't see us talking on the phone going, oh yeah, let's check that out.
Well, this one was a little bit special because our other one was disappeared. So
yeah. Well, but even the other one, I don't think we would have chosen to see it.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're starting to push the envelope. And so, Shashank, to kind of answer your question, I think we're looking for interesting films.
Yeah.
And one thing and it doesn't mean interesting, oh, that's so bad it might be interesting to talk about, but just an interesting, hey, that looks kind of crazy. Like Fat Man, I was owned by the trailer. I saw a retweet from Jim, and it was like, Patton Oswalt is right. That's insane. Like, even if it was bad, it'd still be a great, like, it just draws the eye, right?
Mm-hmm.
Joya Noel drew the eye for a completely different reason. And even as we're looking at other things in the new year, it'll be hey, what's interesting? It could end up being bad. It could be great. It could be. And the other thing is it's accessible. Like, Tenet is a great example of, well, how accessible is it? Could Shashank see it? What about Ahmed? Like, I mean, we're trying our best to pick a film that there's a decent chance wherever you are on the globe, you could see it. Some of the movies we've picked, these German films, it's like, well, we know people in Germany. Why not? Let's pick that film and see how much more we can learn about the world through the film, but through the people we know.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense to you, Jim?
Yeah. I mean, there's not really any hard and fast science to it. It's just sort of like, does this one interest you? How about this one? We sort of go through them, and we've got a little bit of a short list, and we just sort of choose the ones. I think I told Rob recently, what was the one that I had watched that you were thinking of? I watched it with Carla. Ready or Not, I think, was the sort of get outy kind of movie, and that was
we want to see.
And so typically, ideally, neither of us have seen the movie before we.
And the Tenet thing may be the first one where I'm like, screw it, I'm watching this. Yeah. It's out now, like in streaming. Just going through some of these. Katie Fowler says, Richard has hardly any favorite Christmas songs, let alone Christmas movies. It's like, ooh, yikes! There we go. What about? Speaking of which, it just dawned on me that our Christmas music had. And I think we need a little bit more. Just tinkle the ivories a little. All right. Jim's also advising that episode of Doctor Who is also on Vimeo. Shashank chimes in. 9 months has been amazing. What a journey it has been. Started watching our podcast after the one on Defy Bloods, which is a great. That was a great conversation. Like, which I'm kind of curious, Jim. I think I'm going to remember this movie, which I think if I saw any other time, just saw it, I would not remember this film.
Yeah.
It's not a memorable movie. It's a fine movie, but it's not memorable.
Yeah.
I think one of the great things about the podcast we're doing is we're getting more out of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'll remember the movie now.
Yeah, yeah.
If only to be able to say this is what's missing.
Yeah, because there's always something to bring up. You know, there's always something to talk about and compare to. And
okay, Shashank. Oh no, Vlad. This is waiting for the new Green Knight, which was delayed from last May. As are we. It's on Jim's radar. It's one of the movies Jim thinks should be on your radar. So put it on your radar.
Meaning everyone's radar.
Yes. Jim thinks it should be on all your radar.
Looks great.
Pointing at all of you. Because Jim said so.
You should judge a movie by its trailer.
Yeah.
100%.
Although I'd like to know, anyone who's seen the Green Knight trailer, if it doesn't remind them of Julie Taymor's Titus Andronicus, because it does to me. Just not as much blood, or any blood. Okay, Shashank. Also, Rob, as we move into the new year, would you be doing more Mavka reviews? Remember, you're reviewing Feudal and Stupid Jester. It would be great content. I'm not quite sure what you mean there, Shashank. If you could just...
the shorter ones, the capsule ones that he's talking about. Yeah.
Yes, I will be. I've just been lazy. But yes, I will. Yes.
Well.
Yes. In part, I just think it's a great way. It's actually fun. You can tell I'm a chatty man, perhaps verbose. And it is a great exercise for me to boil down what I want to say into a minute. So, okay. Shashank, the Fat Man live stream was great. It was great.
Yeah, it was fun.
Movie. And Richard, what a perfect ending, I think, to this episode. I'm going to bring the music up a little because I really do like this hymn. Oh, wait. Bah humbug. And then, Vlad, have a safe and happy holiday, everyone. You as well, Vlad.
Yes,
Thank you very much. Thank you. And I think, this is a great time for first to thank you all for joining us on this journey. This has been great, and we're looking forward to, hopefully you guys can join us for our last show of 2020 next week, our 40-somethingth, I think. Gonna have to start doing episode numbers. But yes, Vlad, thanks for coming. Thanks for chiming in, bringing your opinion, which has been fantastic. Shashank, same goes with you. Thanks, man, for coming. Thank you very much for the compliment. All the best to you and yours, Shashank. Richard and Katie, notwithstanding your humbug, sir, notwithstanding your humbug, best of the season. Merry Christmas to you, man. Katie, thank you very much. And maybe Jim will give you another impression for you just to finish it off. Jelly Duck, it looks like Jelly Duck might have, if Jelly Duck, if you're not here, but maybe you come back, Hey, happy holidays, man. And stay safe over the holiday season, and maybe we'll see you next week, Ahmed. And yeah, I think, am I missing anyone, Jim?
No. I think we had mentioned all the regulars there.
Yeah, all the folks active in the chat, and thank you very much. And for those of you who, are, longtime watchers, but never chatters, we thank you very much for watching. That's another kind of participation that we do appreciate, that you spend this time with us. And we say all the best this season to you and yours as well. Richard,
likewise. Don't touch your face.
Best of the season to everyone. All right, everybody. Jim, stick around in the green room. I'm gonna take us out of here again, folks. Remember, next Sunday, The Midnight Sky. It's a Netflix original starring George Clooney and some other folks, which is terrible and patronizing, but you know what I mean. So that's next 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, Universal Coordinated Time -6. And yeah, I think that's about it. I think it is time to bring down the lovely Christmas music. And I've been in your world.